Hi guys, it's Lycal Menix. Today we're talking about angle grinders, more specifically, the guards on them. Do you really need a guard on an angle grinder? Do they provide any purpose at all? Should you ever remove the guard on an angle grinder? We'll talk about all of this today. Before this video starts, I just wanted to say that you can do whatever the hell you want. I'm not responsible for your actions. Now, there's a lot of people you'll see who will say you should never ever take the guard off an angle grinder, and in my opinion, this is completely misguided nonsense. There are some times when it's absolutely necessary to take the guard off the angle grinder. For instance, fitting into tight spaces, you might need to. The first reason why people say you should always have a guard on your angle grinder is because of the sparks. If you're grinding or cutting steel, little bits of iron fly off which catch on fire from the heat. These are a little bit uncomfortable if they touch your skin, but really can't do too much damage. These should not be flying at your face. If they are, you're doing something wrong. If you're grinding something, you should grind it in a way that the sparks are flying away from you. And if you're cutting something, first off, you shouldn't keep the angle grinder right in line with your face. You should keep it to the side. And the disc should be partway through the material, so all of the sparks are, or at least most of them, are flying down towards the ground. If you are grinding something, once again, you should grind it in a way that the sparks are either going straight down or flying away from you, never towards you. And if there is ever a time when the sparks are flying towards you, you should always put a face shield on. But overall, I think sparks from an angle grinder are a lot less scary than people make them out to be. It's really not a big deal. If they get into your eye, that can cause an issue, so always wear safety glasses, and once again, make sure the sparks are flying away from you. On to the second reason. Many people say that the guard is there to stop the disc from flying into your face if it shatters, if you're using a cutting disc. Unless you completely cheap out and get the completely garbage cut-off discs that can cost a couple cents each, the reason why these don't explode is there's a little fiber matrix in here that keeps the disc held together, so these really do not come flying apart. The only time these explode is if you're doing something ridiculous, like jamming this into a cut and then twisting on the angle grinder. I think the damage that these discs cause when they explode is grossly overestimated. One time, this exploded right in my face. Guaranteed I was doing something really stupid. Sometimes worse comes to worse. But I was jamming this into the cut and I was twisting it all over the place. And the angle grinder was right here. And it exploded right in my face. And I could feel a couple parts of it, huge parts, just smash me in the face. But anyway, it happened and I was completely fine. The reality is, even though these fly off really fast at like 100 k's an hour, they weigh so little that they don't do any damage. You have to be a complete idiot to try and hurt yourself with one of these cut-off discs if they explode. Now, I know that one of you are gonna come up with a photo of someone who has a bit of a grinding disc stuck in their eye, but I can almost guarantee you that that photo is fake. What I bet they did is they cut in a little bit and then broke off the disc and put it in there. Now, the third reason that I hear no one mention, even though it's the actual point of the guard, is to stop you from touching the disc. Now, you have to be kind of brain dead to touch the disc. I sort of compare it to driving. Just because there's no barrier between you and the car in the next lane traveling the opposite direction doesn't mean you're going to smash into them. Just like if I'm holding on an angle grinder like this, even though I'm close to the disc, that doesn't mean I'm going to cut myself. You have to always be aware of what's happening. This is why you can't really say if something's dangerous or not. It's all about how much experience you have. Now, I've been using angle grinders since I was a kid and I'm very confident with them. So if I took the guard off, it probably wouldn't make much of a difference. Whereas if you have just bought your first angle grinder and it's the first time you're using it, absolutely keep the guard on. Now, there are times when having a guard on an angle grinder makes something more dangerous. There's a false perception that the grinder guard can save you. It's sort of like the newer cars sometimes being more dangerous because of all the safety features, because some people just drive worse because they think, oh, I don't need to worry as much about driving because there's all these safety features. One thing you always need to do is keep the grinder out of the way of your face, etc., or your body. You want to step to the side so both the sparks aren't hitting you and that if the disc does explode, it doesn't go into your face. And there are times when an angle grinder guard will absolutely do nothing. For instance, if you have something like a wire wheel on an angle grinder, you see how the guard is here and the actual business end of the wire wheel is super far out. A guard probably makes this a more dangerous thing. Same thing if you're using a cupstone on an angle grinder. Now, this whole idea that angle grinders are particularly dangerous needs to go away. There's tools that are far more dangerous. And what makes it worse is that many tools, even though being far more dangerous, aren't treated as such and cause major injuries. One very good example of this is the utility knife. These I consider the most dangerous tool in the shop. You know how many times these things can cut you and you can end up with a serious injury. Another tool that's far more dangerous than an angle grinder that people still use with no issue is a circular saw. Because these don't have discs on them, they have blades on them, these can cause major issues. And because you tend to be cutting things down at the waist level, if you cut your leg or something, you can cut a femoral artery and bleed out. These are monster dangerous tools, but people still use them fine. It's because it's experience and knowing how to handle a tool safely. Angle grinders are about 1,000,000 times safer than a circular saw, but you still need to respect them. So I'm not going to stop you. If you want to take the guard off your angle grinder, go ahead. If you want to keep it on, go ahead. On all of my angle grinders, I keep the guard on just because I don't see a reason to take it off. Sometimes if you're reaching in a tight space, or if the disc weighs down enough where it's small so you can't reach somewhere, and you might need to take the guard off. If you do, make sure you just put it back on. So if someone chooses to take the guard off their angle grinder, that's their decision. And just know that it's their responsibility if something goes wrong. You should always take responsibility for something that happens. If you keep the guard on or take it off, you're still at risk. And if something bad happens, that's your fault. Anyway, stay safe, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Maybe subscribe to the channel, like the video, maybe leave a comment down below. Thanks, guys. God bless. See y'all.